p.m. I'm calling this meeting to order. In attendance are Commissioners Brooks, Matari, and Duncan. Are there changes to the agenda? Okay. Our action item is 2023 property assessment adjustments. And Ben, did you want to introduce this to us, or?
Yeah, however you would like it. Ben Crottinger for the record, Chief Deputy Assessor. So we decided, just kind of working with the BOCC office, we kind of split them up into categories just so they would be easier for us to go through. So we grouped them up as best as we could. It's fairly easy to understand, but so typically, the way that I believe this has been done in the past is these are AS62 forms. Normally, they are sent up as a consent calendar item, but I think, we decided to kind of change the process and go through like this. So now we have 115 or so like that we're going to go through. If you have any questions, I don't know how specifically we're going to go through it, but any questions you have, just let me know. Anything you need me to do, I can do that.
Okay, so this AS62 form, obviously that predates the current assessor and you. It's just an internal form that a previous assessor came up with? Is that what we know about
Yeah,
it?
I'm not sure how long, this has been around for a considerably long time, at least 15, 20 years, something like that. But so essentially, yes, technically this is to the Board of County Commissioners, but yeah, so essentially, the way that it's laid out, we have the information for the parcel itself, the name of the homeowner, the address, city, state, zip code, the parcel number, and the AIN number. And then down below, we kind of have an explanation of what happened. And then below that, we have the original market value that it currently is, and then we have kind of the amended market value that we are requesting for the board to approve.
Okay. So I think we dealt with one already this year, and we actually had to have another special meeting to correct a levy. So I think part of the question that I've had is that if this falls under one of those issues, and it has something to do with mathematical error, electronic error. Do you know what I'm talking about in that
Yeah,
statute?
I believe I know what you're talking about. So this specifically is under Idaho Code 631302. So we have done these historically, as long as I've been aware of.
Sure.
Last year, we had around 700 or so AS62s. Previous year, it was around 700 or so AS62s. Now, the vast majority of these are from House Bill 562. And House Bill 562, I could be incorrect.
Homeowner's exemption.
Homeowner's
Yeah.
exemption, exactly.
Okay.
Yep, so they changed the statute so that before then, you only had a certain time frame that you could apply for homeowner's
Correct.
exemption.
And now it's
And now
all-
because of that, we end up having to submit a significant amount of these AS62s because since you can technically apply all the way through December 31st, we are required to give them the homeowner's exemption, which ends up us, we have to correct their value.
Right. And
Yeah.
so I think that's the least one I'm concerned with,
Mm-hmm.
because that's obviously makes sense, and that's actually being litigated right now. So we'll find out how that ends up. Bruce, did you have anything you wanted to add before we start?
No, I think the big thing right now is that, we have a bunch of these. Obviously the homeowner's exemption, that's a condition.
Separate.
We have to manage to that. But the other ones, it's not only just an individual one like we had before, which affected the levy rate, but the aggregate of some of these. Are they spread out throughout the county? And are we able to at least identify through process how these are slipping through, if you will? Because that's really the key, is to figure out how to get down to that smallest number of adjustments based
No.
upon, the processes that you have in your office.
I completely agree, yeah. So kind of depending on, since they're kind of split up into different, various reasons and things like that. Some of them say like the property that's removed or demolished. That one, that would be about the property owner contacting us. So if we're not aware of it before we are out with the annual roll, there's nothing that we can do other than an AS62 for this. generally, they're supposed to tell us before we do that, you know, and that's why we have BOE and everything, but technically, this is meant to correct it. And so that's kind of one of those examples where if the property owner doesn't tell us until after the annual roll, you know, we have to go down this route.
No, I
So
understand that
that's
part.
like an example where, you know, it's, you know, nothing that we can really correct in our processes, but some of these, yes,
Well-
you know, they would be, I hope that the number, you know, would be decreased through more auditing and things like that.
Yeah, well, I hope that we can at least categorize some of this stuff in a
Certainly.
way that says, okay, this is a process one.
Yes,
The person who destroys or, you know, levels their home, those are the numbers you're gonna get just through probability. So I don't think anyone's concerned about that.
No. No. So as we go, I'll bring up other questions too, because once again, I'm trying to get a process that is helpful and follows the law. So that's kind of where I'm looking at. All right, so shall we just start with item A, new construction?
sounds great.
Okay. So with this, help me understand what's it mean, should be on the 23 occupancy roll.
Yeah, so essentially, if something's going to be on the annual roll, then it has to be occupied as of January 1st of 2023 for this year, right? Now, we don't actually certify that roll until June, right? So in between that time frame, we do get a significant amount of properties where something will be reported to us that it was actually, you know, occupied before, you know, 1/1 of 2023. So sometimes we have to throw in additional ones. In this case, these were just errors where they were not actually complete by 1/1, though we thought that they were not. And like I said, it has to be as of 1/1. And if it's even January 2nd, then it has to be thrown on the occupancy roll. So that's
there's-
what happened with these.
Okay, so 8 properties were counted on the occupancy roll, but now they're being removed because they weren't occupied.
It's a flip.
Okay.
They were added to the primary roll, saying that they were already occupied as of January 1st, but that wasn't the case. It's that they shouldn't be on the primary roll, they should be on the occupancy roll. That's what this is for.
Okay.
How do you know when there's occupancy?
Oh, various things. Certificates of occupancy, that's a really major one. We go off of that a lot. That's generally what I would say is number one, because, you know, all these are supposed to be permitted.
Okay.
Right?
So does community development give you these things?
Yes, it depends on where the specific house is, though. So some of the improvements in Kootenai County, they fall under community development, and they would do permitting through community development.
Okay.
But there are plenty of houses
Inside the
that
city.
mean the city.
Which we
Exactly.
wouldn't be
Where then we
notified.
have to go through city information, and it varies totally depending on the city, how they do their records, how they send them to us. So it really depends. It's very simple though. If it is through community development, very easy. We don't have any issues with that in general. But some of the other jurisdictions can be very complicated to deal with.
So is this address on the first person, Michael Mills and Lori Warnick, is that San Rafael, California? Is that correct?
That would be, I believe that would be mailing address for them. I can look at it, but
Okay.
yeah, it looks like
Because
it's mailing address.
Because it says regarding the property identified as the following.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that. I think we typically use mailing address, but let me pull it up here really quick just so I can double check
Okay.
and confirm for you. It'll just take me a second.
Okay. And then I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So it was put on the wrong roll, and now it's gonna go on a different roll, so
Yep.
it really shouldn't affect levy rates or anything like that.
Well, the occupancy roll, that ends up being kind of its own separate levy that they levy off of, which is new construction.
Okay.
Though that works a little bit differently. So, because it's all about time frame. If something is on the annual roll, then levy is, and of course, you know, I'm only speaking for the assessor side, so
Yeah.
I'm not completely, you know, educated on, you know, taxing and levy and everything like that,
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
but still though. So essentially for the annual roll, that is going to be the total value of everything in the county as of January 1st.
Correct.
Right? That's what we calculate levies off of, everything like that, right? Well, then we have the occupancy roll, and there is kind of a new levy where anything that was occupied during 2023, the taxing districts can levy off of that. But it's calculated differently. I believe it's only up to 90% of the value of new construction, so it's a little bit different. But at the end of the day, they will end up receiving tax dollars off of it one way or the other.
Okay,
But it is a little bit of a different process, though.
all right. So do you have any questions about the first section? And I don't see why we could not do one motion including every AIN.
Speaking to your question, by the way, Commissioner, so yes, so we put their mailing address on there.
Okay.
I believe that's how it's been done in the past. That is a legitimate question, why we put
Yeah.
mailing address. I think it's probably for contact information or anything of that sort, because we also have their phone number on there as well, which we do end up putting on sometimes.
Okay.
Any questions, Bill?
No, so we're gonna treat them as batches?
Well, I'd like to,
Yeah, I think
so, how do you feel about that? You've got
I
the
think that's
correct,
good.
your mic?
We're not streaming it anyway.
Okay.
Yes, I think we should treat them as batches.
So are these basically typically end-of-year issues that are identified? Or are these throughout the year? The new
For
construction?
New construction? Yeah, normally this would be figured out. Well, it kind of depends, right? So let's say somebody comes to us during BOE and they're like, why am I getting an assessment notice? My house wasn't completed until February 17th, right? Then we would be able to address it then. But generally, we kind of only go off of the information we have. So if we believe that it was in fact occupied and completed, as of January 1st, then
Yeah.
there isn't a way to correct it until we get other notice or something of that sort.
I guess my only question is, what is the system to ensure that you know?
To ensure that
Just
we
be
know.
completely beholden to the cities, like some of them tell you that, oh, this person got their occupancy permit in February. Because you do
Yeah.
mass appraisals, so
Yeah,
it's not
exact-
like you're sending people out to check on every construction site, are you?
We almost are actually. So it depends on when the permit was pulled out. Because let's say a permit for a new house was just pulled yesterday. We know they're not going to complete the home, by the end of the year. That's not physically possible, right? But though, we do a check on a significant amount of these throughout the year because we want to make sure, because here's the thing, depending on jurisdiction, permitting dates could be very off, or maybe they didn't even pull a permit. Maybe from an aerial, image we took, we see, it looks like there's a structure, we'll go out and we'll take a look. But it kind of depends on where you are, because if we're in, Coeur d'Alene, that's, once again, you know what I mean? The permitting for that is generally it's very accurate and we're on top of it. But if it's something maybe out in the boonies and Worley or something of that sort, it's a little bit of a different situation. But we do have our appraisers go check on these periodically.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to ensure, because sometimes people do, build a house without even permitting at all.
I understand. I'm just trying to figure out, is there a solid system for the assessor's office to get accurate information? Or is it just kind of general?
Well, so we use, so in our software called ProVal, that's our CAMA software, which is Computer Assisted Mass Appraisal. We have permits. And so the way that we do pretty much any new construction is we would enter a permit in ProVal and say that, this permit was filed as of this date and whatever other information there is included. Generally then an appraiser would go take a look at it. Right now, like I said, if they just filed the permit, they're probably not gonna go look right now, but they'll go look at it at some point, see where it is, and then depending on what other information we have, if it's a builder or something like that, we might know of a certain time frame where we believe it's done. But we also have all this information in the permit softwares from like the jurisdictions themselves, where it'll say, we can go in there and we can look. And it's like, okay, well, they haven't even done electricity yet, or they did pass electricity, or they passed this inspection. That's usually what we go off of, the permitting information. And that is very solid because, they have to file and.
I know, but it's not push notification. It's not that they're notifying you. You have to figure it out.
Yes, but we do keep tabs on all of our open permits.
That's fine.
You know, for anything like that. Like
I
we have
understand.
a good report in Excel that pulls any open permit for construction. So you can see that, and then you can divide it out by district for all the
I understand.
appraisers to
I
look at.
understand.
So it's pretty solid. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for
No,
AA?
no, not right now.
Okay. So I guess I would take a motion. I've got two with the same AIN number on here, though. So let me,
What's that?
TRCA and ATIENZA.
No, those are different on mine.
7-3, oh,
I
4-8.
must have an old, yeah, they both have the same AIN numbers.
Which AN do you have?
So on, it's TRCA is 348373. Oh, wait a minute, 348733. Okay,
Yeah,
hang
okay,
on.
they look the same
Yeah.
here
Okay,
at first glance. No, they're
Momentary
different.
dyslexia.
yeah,
All right,
okay, good. All right, I would take a motion then.
so what are we amending the assessment adjustments?
I guess we're, yeah,
Okay, I
approving
move-
those adjustments.
I move that we approve the property assessment adjustments for 2023 for new construction for the following AINs: 315-606, 329-842, 348-230, 348-372, 343-153, 348-373, 348-733, 346-170.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, item B, these are agricultural exemption adjustments. And Ben, I'll let you go ahead and speak to these.
Of course. So I believe we have just three. It's two for the similar one. It's one is for 348612, and then the other two for 348611. Okay, so let me see here. I have a fairly large packet. Okay. So the description, I'll just read this out if that's okay first. So this is a new parcel that was split from parent parcel AIN 146525, which was soil typed as medium productivity for ag. Therefore, this new parcel should have the same soil productivity since it was part of the original parcel, right? So the time frame for this. So when we have splits, these aren't actually processed until after the annual roll. And so that's the thing is you're going to see with some of these, we can't actually, I can't necessarily apply something if the parcel doesn't exist yet. And so that's kind of what I was talking about earlier is that for some of these, if it's after the annual roll, this is really the only way we can correct something. And when it comes to a split or a seg or a merge with a parcel, that kind of follows the same thing. If the split happened after, we already certified the roll, the only way we can really fix something, well, if the split happens after that, and then we need to apply soil productivity or something like this, an exemption, like we would have to follow through like an AS62.
So, I mean, this one makes sense.
Yep, yeah,
It makes sense. It's very
it's
low.
fairly simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too complicated of one.
Okay.
So that's for that one. And then, okay, so for 348612, so there's two of them I think we had submitted.
Okay, so I think we're still on B, and that's the 348611. We didn't
Yep.
get to the 612 yet, which would be under, we've got
Shelton.
Oh, yeah.
ag exemptions, then timber exemptions. So ag
Okay.
first.
Yeah, so,
All right, any questions on these three?
No.
Okay, so motion?
I move that we approve the agricultural exemption adjustments for AIN 348612, 348611, and 348611 corrected.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, item C, timber exemption adjustments.
okay. Oh, I apologize. Okay. Just want to make sure I'm on the right one here. Significant amount of paperwork. Okay, so 348512. Here we go, I found it. Okay. Okay, so I'll read this one out. It's, all of these are going to vary. Timber is a very particular program, as far as exemptions work. I believe, just for a little bit of background, because this is good to know. So in the state of Idaho, we only really have a few counties, and they're all northern counties that even do timber exemptions. As you would know, if you go down to Ada County, people don't have enough timber to even harvest anyway, right? So out of, I believe it's, so we have 44 counties. I believe out of the 44, I think only 6 counties or so really do the timber exemption, and we're one of those 6. And then out of those 6, we're the only one that actually has like a certified timber/forester. So when we do these, we're very particular about this because it's exemptions, especially when it comes to timber, we have to ensure that they're following their plan. We have to ensure all of these things. So in this one in particular, I'll just kind of read out the reasoning. So landowner did a commercial harvest following his forest management plan and neglected to let us know he purchased seedlings intending to restock his timber. After bringing in receipts for the seedlings, we reinstated his timber exemption. Right, so for this one, we pulled his timber exemption because he did his
Yeah.
let me just re-say that. So on his forest management plan, you harvest. That's always a part of your plan, right? He harvested, but as a part of his plan, he was supposed to purchase seedlings to restock his timber, right? Well, we did not have any idea that he had purchased seedlings. And once again, this is after BOE, and he told us this after the fact. Well, now we know that he was in fact following his timber management plan, so we would like to, reinstate the timber exemption.
All right. And then
So that's for
Cav
348.
Cav Oak looks like it's the same reason, the seedlings.
Yep, that's for that one as well.
Okay, so then Hawkwood.
Yeah, I think that's for all the way to, let me see. Yeah, Hawkwood. Okay. Okay. So this is another kind of specific thing when it comes to timber exemptions. Things don't automatically get a timber exemption. Let's say you own 3 parcels together. If you apply for the exemption on one of them, it's not automatically going to be put onto the other parcels. You would have to make sure that you have the other ones included as well, but on top of this, they have to be contiguous, right? So you can't have one management plan for a parcel here and then 5 parcels down the road. You say, oh, well, it's the same thing. Well, it's not contiguous. It needs to be contiguous. Well, in this case, what happened was he added this parcel to his contiguous parcels timber exemption. I believe we did not know that it was contiguous, but after them showing us and looking at it, it was in fact contiguous, so this was just really an appraisal error, you could say.
Okay,
That's for Hawkwood.
right.
Okay. Mine are a little bit
Yours
in
out of
different order.
Okay.
Let
So
me see.
Rudd.
Rudd Family Trust.
Yeah. So the only reason I would go through these one by one is just to see if there's something that,
Is there a pattern?
Well-
Is there something out of the ordinary?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. I have no problem going through them. I really don't. It's totally fine. Okay, Rudd Family Trust, and this is for 128, 416. Okay. Okay, yep. So for this one, this is kind of just when you see department error for something like this is truly like, this is a man-made error. We did process and approve the timber exemption, but we did not apply it in Aumentum.
Okay.
This is a very rare error, but it does happen occasionally, though. We saw the timber management plan, we
Right.
went through the whole thing, we approved it, and we didn't apply it.
Is this the day trust?
actually.
This
I was
is
at
Rudd Family Trust.
Rudd, and then Days next.
So that's for Rudd, and then I'll look at Day next for AN 127325.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, some of these you can't avoid. I mean, there's not
Yes.
really a better process. And
Yeah, see, the Day Family Trust, this is a perfect example of what I was saying with mapping, right? They turned in timber documentation right before the deadline, which is great. But once again, we can't physically process this one until they created a new parcel. So there's no other way to do this than going through here. But so that's an example of one where no real error, I can't apply something on a parcel that doesn't exist, right?
Right, yeah, same with Pelkey, maybe?
So Pelkey, that one's a little bit different. So this one, he applied in 2022 and, let's see.
Well, I'm sorry, not same as the mapping, but just
Oh.
same as the fact that it just was something that wasn't,
Yeah, for some reason, this one was not reflected on the tax bill. We looked at this one, I don't know why it wasn't reflected on the tax bill, we had applied it, wasn't on there. But so,
okay,
that's for that one. Okay, so then looking at Frank, yep, 340325. Timber exemption was removed in error. Okay, yeah, so when we did an inspection on this one, we believed that there was a home site that was going, at least according to my notes on here, I believe. We thought that, a home was beginning to be built or something like that, and that the plan wasn't being followed, so we removed it. We ended up going back in after the homeowner, because whenever we remove them, we normally send a homeowner notification of that, right? So then the homeowner came to us and they said, why was it removed? Nothing happened. We went out, did a reinspection, saw that wasn't actually the fact, so we'd like to put it back on.
sure,
Like I said, timber is a little bit of a particular sort of program. You know, it's, if you don't follow your management plan to a T, then we will remove it. And so if we have any sort of information that's saying you're not following it, we're just gonna yank it.
right, well, and it's one of those exemptions where, because it's an exemption, it shifts tax burdens. We need to make
Exactly.
sure they're following the law.
We're very particular about them, yes.
Right.
Okay.
So I'm just scrolling through all the timber exemptions, and I didn't see anything unusual. Did you want him to go through one by one?
No,
or-
I mean, I see about 5 here where there's probably some office, clerical
A
errors.
couple of them are.
Yep.
Yep.
How many timber exemptions are there in the county?
I don't have this number off the top of my head. I probably should. I believe it's around 3, 4, 5,000 out of about 95,000 parcels. Yep. So it's a significant amount of time to make sure people following these plans. Because imagine for every single one, they all have particular forest management plans. So, and this is kind of, bringing up that discussion with the other counties. A lot of the other counties, I mean, yes, they do have far fewer parcels than we do, but it's a significant amount of time to make sure that we're applying this exemption correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's around that number. I can get the, current number to you as soon as possible. I'd be
I
able
was
to
just
find it.
curious, that's all.
It's around that amount. I believe for timber and ag, they're close to the same number, about, 4,000 or 5,000 each, around.
If it's 100, that's a large error rate.
Yeah.
If it's 10,000, then that
Yeah.
gets into the law of probability.
So Tina, can you just use the AINs on the agenda, or do you need them in each motion? I mean, we've done this before.
I'm
We've had the
perfectly
motions
fine with
reflect.
pulling them from my,
Agenda.
my agenda and just, I'll list them. Just say as listed or something like that to
Okay.
trigger me to pull them.
All right. Bill, questions before we do a motion?
No.
Okay.
I move that we approve the timber exemption adjustments for the AINs as described in the meeting agenda.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, property removed or demolished. We can go into these, and then I think these are one of those things where you don't know until you know. And so
Exactly.
I haven't really,
Yeah, manufactured homes, some of these, these ones are pretty straightforward, but typically, so I mean, we don't, so as you know, we follow a 5-year appraisal cycle, right? So let's say that these were due to be reappraised in 2025, but they just demoed it last year. Well, I'm not going to go and physically re-inspect that parcel until 2025, right? The last time I looked at it was 2020. So, I don't really, we don't really have something, you know, that will come to us and say, hey, this manufactured home was demolished, other than the owner telling us that, right? So the owner comes and tells us in our personal property department, they say, hey, you know, we removed this or demoed this. We say, okay, we go take a look, we inspect it, and then we submit this. And once again, like I said, you know, it's all about time frame on this. If it was before BOE, we could have done it then, but if they told us after that, we have to go through this way.
So that's all that section, so are you good?
Same with being moved, stuff like that. If it was moved to another county, you know, and nobody notified us of that, then,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, see, again, those are things that are just fine, you can't prevent that.
Yep.
So, motion?
I move that we approve the property removed or demolished items on the Board of Equalization agenda for 12/22/23.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. Okay, item E, which is property uninhabitable.
This is a little bit of a similar situation. It's different, but it's sort of similar. So for these two, you know, I can quickly say what happens here. This home has extensive fire damage and is uninhabitable. Sheriff warrant returned, unable to collect. Same with the second one. The sheriff warrant states the home has extensive fire damage, is now uninhabitable, unable to collect. So for these, it's just essentially we're removing the value because we got information through a sheriff warrant that it's destroyed. So, yep.
Okay. And then might as well just, because it's only one more, the Hotchkiss one is also destroyed, but it's put under casualty loss instead of property uninhabitable.
I believe.
Full burn down is what it says here.
Yeah, so I think the reason why we split these out is because this one, this casualty loss, that one, the home is completely destroyed. The other ones are just uninhabitable.
Oh.
That would be the difference. So technically, they could repair the other ones.
Gotcha.
So if they do, you know, we'll re-inspect it and, yeah, and put it back on. But this
Okay.
one's completely burned down. It's destroyed.
Gone.
Okay.
Exactly.
And then then the next two are sheriff
Yeah,
warrants.
sheriff warrant. Yep. So these are manufactured homes. This is the typical process that we follow. If there's a sheriff warrant on something and they say that we're unable to collect on them, I believe we put them to 0 and we remove them.
Okay. All right, so we have E, F, and G, unless you've got questions.
No, I move that we approve the assessment adjustments for E, property uninhabitable, F, casualty loss, and G, sheriff warrant returned unable to collect for the AINs as described in the business meeting agenda.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, section H, this is property sold or transferred to governmental agency. And is this just a timing issue?
Yep, it's a timing issue, exactly. So it all depends on when they were purchased. So
Do
like
they get the full year, even if they've purchased it partial year?
I don't believe, well, let me see here. So for the first one, Idaho Transportation Department, it was purchased in August. I don't
Okay.
think we did the whole year. We went from 35 to 17.5.
Okay,
For the second one, which is 222,868, that one was transferred to Idaho Fish and Game.
original market value 3?
Yeah, that one in particular is different. I believe normally, I can pull that one up really quick, just so I can be 100% certain, but, let me see.
And then what they assess out at 0 for 2024?
Yeah, it looks like it's for those ones.
2023 and 2024, so we're dealing with 23
Yeah.
today, but yeah, 24 would continue on.
Okay, because in the transfer, that's usually where the taxes are. If the previous owner paid for the full year, they get some
Generally, yeah.
money back. Okay.
Yeah,
but
the one
it's-
that's 3 is interesting though. Let me pull that one up just to confirm. I
Okay.
want to make sure.
But otherwise, I think all the other ones are are just fine.
Timing, yeah, it's timing with those generally. Yes, okay, so it actually is correct, the value, it's mostly flood ground.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
Okay.
So we have a few parcels like that in the county. It almost completely devalues it. You can't really do anything. And the interesting thing, just a bit of history, you know, there are some around the Coeur d'Alene Lake that, depending on when it was and when they were split out, right? If it was done before certain parts of the dam happened, then they were actually not submerged at all, which is really interesting. We have some of those in some of the bays where now they're completely submerged because, you know, they were originally split before the dam was even built. So
okay.
anyway, just for some history. So that's why the value's so low on this one.
All right, so motion,
We're doing the, what,
H.
H. I move that we approve the property sold or transferred to governmental agency as indicated in our agenda for December 22nd.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, letter I, mapping adjustment Livingston.
Yep, so this one would be kind of one that would be constituted or considered a bit of a manual error. So whenever we have a mapping change, kind of like I was saying, a split, a seg, a merge, or anything like that, whenever that happens, there are multiple things that must happen, especially if there's an improvement on it. Let's say that, you know, two parcels end up being combined into one, or let's say one parcel ends up being turned into three. Well, now, all of those improvements, let's say you have 10 sheds and you have a garage here and you have this here, right? Well, when you split those parcels up, you have to make sure that all of the improvements are put where they're supposed to be put. In this case, there was an error with some of the improvements. Not all of it was put where it's supposed to be put, so that's what this is for.
So then wouldn't this kind of be a net zero in the system only because
is.
it'll be
Yep.
put on the other,
Exactly.
The other
Yep, it's
parcel.
put on the other parcel.
okay?
Yep.
All right, we can handle the next few or we can do,
Yeah, we can, if you're okay, I can just go to the next one.
okay,
So, this one, oh yeah, let me see just to make sure. Okay, yep, so this one in particular, so we valued a detached garage at 100% complete. This is another one of those cases where we would go off of either permanent information or something like that. Like, let's say we get plans from, the city or from something like that, and it denotes kind of all of those things individually, I don't know if that's the case for this one in particular, but we essentially, our information said that it was 100% complete. The taxpayer, called the contact and said, that's not correct. Why am I being valued this much? And we said, okay, let's go take a look. We go look, we say, okay, no, it's not 100% complete. Let's change it to 40%. So that's that one specifically.
okay.
And once again, it's time frame, right?
Sure.
So if it happened, after, we're done with the roll, then, yep, we gotta do it like this, so.
Right, okay, and then the assets, so PNC was just, you guys just didn't get notified.
Exactly, yeah, personal property. That's another one that's definitely its own beast, but, they were inactive and, it's all notification timing.
What were the assets that, and what do you mean by inactive?
Well, I'd probably have to look into this one in particular to see.
Because this is real property, right?
No,
No, this one's personal property.
Oh, because it's, okay, business.
Yep, this one's actually personal property. Yep. So I'm not sure specifically what it was, but depending on what the company is, what they do, maybe, they're
be a
not.
couple dozers or.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah, I
stuff
understand.
like that, yeah.
That's that one, and then,
So
yes.
Jacobs,
yep, so that one's different. So manufactured home account was never deactivated after converting into an NREV. So,
NREV,
yeah, non-revenue, right? So essentially, what's the best way
it
to?
became real property because they attached to the ground,
Exactly.
okay?
Yep, so it was supposed to be converted, but we didn't do that. That is an error on our part. So,
But once again, this is one,
yeah, exactly. Yep.
so that's not, all right, I would take, if no questions.
But that is, just for Commissioner, just to know, even though Commissioner Duncan, you did mention it, that is something that happens, for the manufactured homes. That's just a good piece of knowledge to have, is we have plenty that are considered real property, and then we have plenty that are considered personal property. So it all depends on, how it's being used. Is it like permanently attached to the property? But in the case that it ends up being converted, right, then we do have to, change how it's allocated, things like that. It's just an interesting thing to note.
Okay, so I would take a motion for IJKL.
I move that we approve the assessor adjustments for I, mapping adjustment, J, valuation error, K, inactive, and L, duplicate, with the corresponding AINs for each of those sections, as described in the meeting agenda.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. For me, the homeowner's exemption, I would just take a motion now unless you guys had questions. And once again, this is being duked out in
Yeah.
the,
Yep.
I move that we approve the homeowner's exemptions as listed on our agenda for December 22nd under item M.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
okay. All right, and solid waste fee adjustment, and I think this one's gonna go pretty quick
Yeah,
as well.
exactly. It's a pretty quick thing. So essentially, only certain types of property are supposed to be charged with solid waste fees, right? If you're never going to be using technically solid waste specifically in the property itself, right, then they're not supposed to be charged solid waste fees. Pretty much all of them, I mean, it can go through, like for the first one, let me see, for wood, manufactured home is being used as only storage and should not have solid waste. Next one, manufactured home was demolished, solid waste was not removed.
Right.
Once
But
again,
this
similar
isn't even
thing.
a valuation issue, though, it's a fee issue.
It's different,
Yeah,
exactly.
so this one is not a,
Yeah, it's
big-
different.
okay. All right, any questions?
Nope.
Motion?
I move that we approve the assessor adjustments for all of the AINs in section N, solid waste fee adjustment as described in the meeting agenda.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. Wow, we're gonna get out of here in less than an hour, I bet.
Talking about.
Okay.
Else to God's ear.
Figure
All right, item O, urban renewal district adjustment. So help me understand why this is late.
So this one's interesting. Okay, I think this is, yep, a big old stack of them. So the Hayden one is by itself, and then the rest are all related to Ignite CDA, right? So, basically, parcels that are owned by a URD, right? Not technically in a URD, but owned by a URD. These are in a URD as well, but if parcels are specifically owned by a URD, they're supposed to be exempt. So what happened with this one was there was a split. I believe it was split into 43 different parcels, right? Now, the original ownership was the URD. The ownership was still the URD, but we did a split. And so for this one in particular, when we were going through it, I believe that whoever was processing this one did not know that the parcels should automatically carry the exemption. This was something that we actually ended up having to speak with legal counsel about. We said, we understand that technically the ownership is stated as such, but do we automatically apply this exemption? Because exemptions are very, very specific with how we're supposed to do it. And so legal counsel did say that technically in a case like this, normally it would be applied for, but because a URD exemption is automatic in this case, they were supposed to get it. So this is one of those cases where the Hayden Urban Renewal Agency, we ended up including that one on it because it was kind of a similar thing. Even though it was only one parcel, anytime a URD owns a parcel, it is supposed to be exempt. So that's kind of an internal
Right,
thing
but
that we
isn't
had
somebody
to.
supposed to, how do you know if the URD owns something?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a whole process, right? So, I mean, when you're doing, a split like this, right, where it's a pretty significant split in subdivision here, You know, it kind of starts in land records. Land records, they actually physically split up all the land, you know, in part. It takes a significant amount of time, right? Well, after that's done, you know, it kind of goes over to another part of our department where they look at allocations, they look and make sure, are there improvements? Is there any changes that need to be made? Are there other exemptions? Things like that, right? And in this case, it's very rare that we have kind of a split, like this specific situation is very rare, having,
Right.
because generally URDs would, they would sell a parcel, you know, before
Right.
doing a split, because you know how it works with getting increment and, you know,
Right.
pay and everything like that. So it was just a very specific case where we did make an error. Yeah.
So would you consider, see, then does this fall under 63,810? Because was the error unintentional, clerical, mathematical, or electronic? Because now, I mean, you're talking about millions and millions worth of value. I mean,
I'm calculating just rough 20 million.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it comes out to around 20 million.
Okay, so then do we need to have the public hearing to make that adjustment? Because it's, those taxing districts are gonna lose out on 20 million in value.
That I don't know if I would be able to answer. I mean, ultimately, that would be a decision by the board. But, I mean, this is, the thing that we've generally always followed would be, you know, going through 63, you know, 1302 for something like this.
Right,
So,
but that's what I'm saying, I don't think that's a good process anymore. So that's, we need to figure out,
Yeah.
and that's part of the reason why we're here. We wanna figure out what is the best process.
Yeah.
Because if we're not following the law, then we need to follow it, so.
Yeah, I think for this one in particular, I mean, it would maybe be best if weighed in on by legal counsel. That's maybe what I would say. Like I said, typically, I mean, this is just the internal process we follow is, you know, doing it this way, so.
Right. So can you tell me if this is considered an unintentional, clerical, mathematical, or electronic error? Because if it's not one of those, then it doesn't fall under 63,810.
Let me see, because then if possible, and, you know, I don't have legal, and we don't
Right.
have a legal counsel here, so.
Right.
I'll have to look and see here. Let me pull up 631302 if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
See.
I don't think I have that one here. No, because only Pat and Dave are gonna be the ones familiar with this at all. So no, anybody else would have to do a
I'll just
lot of
read,
research.
I'll just read the statute out for
Okay.
631302 for cancellation and refund of property tax. So the county commissioners may at any time when in session cancel property taxes which for any lawful reason should not be collected and may refund to any taxpayer any money to which he may be entitled by reason of a double payment of property taxes on any property for the same year, or in any case in which the county commissioners find that due to error or otherwise by fault of the county, an excess amount of property tax was paid, the county commissioners may refund the excess amount so collected, plus pay the same late charges and delinquency interest rate on that amount which the county would regularly require of a taxpayer who is delinquent, and the county commissioners may adopt an ordinance or resolution to establish such payments. And then, I don't think those ones. Yeah, so I believe I wouldn't be able to say, you know, I can't really give a legal opinion for this in particular, but, you know, the way that we have, you know, typically treated all of these is, you know, following what under 1302 says, which specifically is due to error or otherwise by fault of the county.
Right, but if it's one of these three errors, then 63,810 applies.
I guess, I mean, the question would really come down to, you know, why would we not apply, well, read that out again if you can.
Okay, so it's just unintentional clerical. So that was the keystroke error, right? Mathematical,
Yeah.
no. Electronic error. It doesn't seem to me that these fit under any of these.
Yeah, well, I mean,
The,
I think the question would be, if we bring that up, you know, there are technically other ones included in here that are unintentional. And so
Right.
the question would be, would we treat all of those under that statute, or, I don't know.
well, but is it unintentional clerical? So this is what is vague
It
in
is
the,
definitely vague.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I Technically, which statute is that again?
That is the 63-810 that we handled last month.
Yeah, C3 at 10. That was, just from my perspective, not a statute that I really knew about really
Sure.
whatsoever. That only kind of just came up the last couple months. And I'm not saying because I didn't know, that means,
No, but
Yeah.
I guess that's where I put a pause on all the ones we had in the system after I found that out.
Yeah.
Because that one that we approved on the AS 62
Yeah.
had to be handled under the 63-810. So that is where I started this process and said, hey, I'm not signing anything else in on-base anymore
Yeah,
until we
understandable.
figure out what is the right process, what do we have to do, are we gonna have to have a public hearing? So that's where I think we got to today.
Yeah.
And this was very helpful exercise for me at least to go through this, but it does not seem like the urban renewal districts fall under any one of those three. But if something comes to us and it's one of those three, then we have to know, because if it
Yeah.
results in the levy being changed,
Yeah.
then we have to deal with it. But, so I don't know, I think we just probably need more legal to weigh in to find
Yeah.
out how they want us to go forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really an kind of like you said, I don't think it falls under those, but
Right.
I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I wouldn't want to make, a legal
No, and that's
statement,
fine.
but-
I don't
yeah.
see it either, and we can go get that legal opinion. I don't see a problem with that. But this results in kind of a significant change for those smaller taxing entities who are in this particular area. So I want to be sensitive to that too, and I just really want to follow the law. So
Completely understood.
Yeah,
Completely
I-
understood.
take a motion if there's no more questions or discussion.
What are we doing? Not,
O, urban renewal districts, and that takes us to the end of the agenda.
are we approving these, or are we gonna hold off until we get,
Well,
Legal.
I think it's a two-step process. I believe that we can approve these today, and then we would get a legal opinion. Does this fall under 63-810, and do we have to have a public hearing?
yeah,
So,
'cause that's a lot of money,
yeah,
gonna assess value, so.
right. So
Okay.
that would be my choice. If you don't want to approve them today, then what does that mean for you guys if we don't sign the urban renewal today?
Well, not necessarily for us, but for the owner of the URDs. I mean, that's kind of more the, concern there. If they're selling these properties or something like that and they're
We're gonna have a
not.
tax liability.
Exactly. That's the problem. And I know, and I believe some of them are
Pending,
Well,
pending.
I don't think we should have the owner suffer, because we made an error,
right.
so.
And
And that-
legally
yeah, that would
under
be
the
mine.
1302, we can do this. It's just if something else now is triggered, I want to make sure we do that too. So that would be
All
my
right.
thing.
I move that we approve the assessor's adjustment for section O, urban renewal district adjustments for all of the AINs as described in the meeting agenda.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right. Public comments? Hearing none. 1:55, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.